We will be talking about resource mobilization, so funding, partnerships. My name is Jop Blom. I will be the moderator. I was also the moderator actually last year when we were in Tallinn. So it's a bit strange now to live this like online world, but actually it's good for our carbon footprint. So it saves like it serves as the bigger cause. We will have 4 short presentations of our keynote speakers that will be around 10 minutes or 15 minutes each. We will be having Agha Dawoodzai from Let's Do It World to give also the perspective from Let's Do It World and the support they can offer for fundraising and resource mobilization. I think Khan is calling in from Afghanistan. Is that right, Khan?
Yes, I'm also leading the country, Afghanistan, Let's Do It Afghanistan country team.
Then we will have a presentation from Adel, Salah, calling us from Yemen. He just did the introduction as well. He will be talking a bit more on grants and also on the portal 365. Then we also have Leo Lin from Taiwan, I think. Leon, is that correct? You're calling from Taiwan?
Yeah, you're right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. And Leo will be talking more on corporate partnerships and also share some tips and tricks on corporate partnerships with us. And let's have like a room for 1 or 2 questions after every presentation. So, and then also after all the presentations, we have room also to share your own input, like have we forgotten something important about resource mobilization? Which best practice did we not mention? Do you have a best practice yourself? So give us all the input that you can give on resource mobilization and our partners. And of course, we have room for Q&A. And we will then end up with a wrap up also of the conclusions and recommendations for the session. I also, in the beginning of the chat, I already shared a link with the Acumen Academy organization. They have a course on non-profit fundraising essentials, so might be interested to take a look at that link also, so that you can actually join a course on fundraising. I think it's a very powerful organization, of course, Acumen. I had the pleasure to meet them already, I think, back in 2005 when they were just starting. I visited them in New York, and it's amazing how they really were a front runner in impact investment, and how they became like a leading organization worldwide in this. So and now they are having an academy with all kinds of online support systems. So very interesting to take a look at that link. Let me also give a bit of my my keynote, 10 minutes on my experience in resource mobilization. So let me get started with the next slide. So my name is Jop Blom. I'm a sustainable entrepreneur for already 20 years with the overactive or overarching vision to empower sustainable entrepreneurship beyond borders. So I do that for my public-private NGO partners, be an accelerator for their projects, what they are doing, but also setting up several sustainable ventures myself in Amsterdam, in Colombia, in South Africa. So we have a group of 30 plus professionals in the spectrum of sustainable entrepreneurship, impact measurement, fundraising, all those kind of things. And it's in the broadest sense of the word. So we have developed like a meaningful marketing campaign to arrange or to create awareness around the sustainable development goals by 8 colorful beaded bracelets that were produced by rural crafters in KwaZulu-Natal. And when I think at the end we sold over 500,000 of those bracelets produced by hundreds of female crafters, but also raised a lot of like millions of media attention with our partners. So without any marketing budgets, we were able to create millions of media attention. So so be clever also in your meaningful marketing, and use also resources of ambassadors and organizations, and with a lot of impact. We work, for example, with Ben and Jerry's, and we work with radio stations, all providing like support for free to promote our campaign. And it also, one other meaningful fundraising activity that I did was Just Dig It, an initiative to re-green or cool down the planet by water harvesting. So they actually ditch like canals or bunds in order to collect the water in deserted areas in Kenya, for example. And with that, we harvest the water, with that vegetation returns, with that evaporation returns, with that clouds return, and with that rain returns. So we are really able actually to revitalize Mother Nation again, where Mother Nation used to be present. So our friend from Kenya can tell everything about that, the parks over there that are now very deserted, but actually once were like green jungles. So that's what I did up till even for Adel, up till even climbing the Kilimanjaro as a fundraising activity for War Child. I think it's now already the 6th edition. We started it, so we mobilize every year like 100 people to climb the Kilimanjaro to create awareness and create funds for War Child. So on a yearly basis, around like 350,000, 400,000 euros is collected. But more importantly, we create like 100 ambassadors that they're actually advocating for War Child and creating attention, especially in their communities and the regions and their own social media community. So it's a very powerful tool actually to activate 100 ambassadors to spread your message. Then I'm already talking too long, so let's go to the next slide. About resource mobilization, a bit from my perspective. At the end, it's all about having the right proposition. And so it starts with your proposition. I started myself Climate Launchpad in Colombia in 2019. Climate Launchpad is an international green business ID competition. It's active in 55 countries, and they asked me to start it in Colombia. And the way they do it is that they say, okay, here you have the Dropbox folder, you have the program, you have the communication material, you have our assistance when we are starting the boot camps. Good luck, and try to establish your own networks, your own partners, your own finding the entrepreneurs to support. So you really start with nothing, but you already start with like all the communication material and the track record of Climate Launchpad in this case. So that is actually the same for World Cleanup Day. You know, you really you are not starting from nothing. So don't reinvent the wheel. See if you can get the corporate fundraising strategies or presentations from the headquarters, get the instructions from the headquarters and start doing it. So it's important to not reinvent the wheel. Be very clear on your proposition and also be very clear on the value you can add. So on your target group, like who could be interested in this proposition. And to give a short example, we started with nothing in 2019. The first year we had 111 business IDs. Last year we had 220 business IDs. We also changed the competition completely online. So it was actually much more efficient to organize the competition. We started with 0 in funding. In the first year, I think we raised 20,000. Last year we raised 60,000. And this morning I took a look at all the prospects and we are about to raise 200,000 in euros in only three years time. So so there's a lot of possibility also for your World Cleanup Day. And it only started with 2 partners who supported us with 5,000 euro each. So you can start very small, but think very big. And most important about that is also the slogan there. We believe in people who believe in their ideas. At the end, it's all about your authenticity. If you believe what you are doing, you can convince everyone. You know, I did it in Colombia while I didn't have a network there. I don't speak the language. And I managed to set up like a climate launchpad competition that now turned out to be a clean tech hub with supporting like an epic center of green entrepreneurship. Okay, next slide. So then it's about, after your proposition, it's of course about people. Set up the right team, but also looking for the right partners who could be interested to support your cause. You know, which organization could be relevant to support your cause. And this is my first meeting, the picture that you see there. It's with Fundación Bolívar da Vivienda, one of the leading foundations in Colombia, actually. The man in the center is the head of that operation, of that Fundación, but he is also part of the family. So that it's a family-owned business. And I never met a servant and humble leader like him. You know, this guy is awesome. You know, normally in Colombia, all of these high net worth individuals, they travel with lots of like escorts and police escorts and big SUVs. This guy is taking the public transport. You know, he's really very humble and very servant. And on the table in the first meeting, February 2019, he said, "Jop, you've got my support." And until now, he have been supported me. And actually now we are starting also an accelerator program to continue our support to the green entrepreneurs. And he's our leading partner in starting the accelerator program. So we are really walking hand in hand, and they are supporting it via their networks. They are also getting more sponsors on board. So it's also very important that you get the right contacts. And to give it in the context of Colombia, I didn't know nobody, so to say, and there it's a very elite-driven country. Everybody knows them from their private schools, from the country clubs, from the industry organizations. So it is very important. That's why we started the first day to establish an advisory board with ex-ministers, with ex-people from the government, ex-people from the municipalities, business people, and they gave us all the introductions to the right contacts in the right organizations. Because to do it with cold calling, you're never going to succeed, you know. So you really need the right contacts at the right level to make this work. And it's also important to build up the ecosystem. So you are looking for several kind of partners. You are looking for funding partners, which could be foundations or governments or private sector partners. But you are also looking for strategic allies that support your cause. So we work with universities, we work with the Chamber of Commerce, we work with B Corp, we work with all kinds of organizations, and every time that we announce our competition, we make sure that everybody is sharing our message. So with that, we reach out to millions of people in Colombia without any marketing budget. So it's very important to look at a variety of partners and also play that role in the ecosystem and make use of all of their expertise, networks, connections, social media channels. You don't have to save the world by yourself. You know, you can do it hand in hand with your partners. So be very clear about that. Next slide. Then it's also the most important thing is actually you have your team, you have your partners, you have your funding, you have your proposition right, but then timing is everything. There has been research actually what made successful startups successful. At the end, it was about all those aspects that I just mentioned, but at the end, it's all about timing. And we were therefore lucky enough that we started in Colombia when there was nothing around green entrepreneurship and clean tech innovation. So we were actually like the front runners to get it started. While there was, of course, a very much interest from the government on a circular economy. And also then a mayor got elected from Bogota, the first female lesbian mayor of Bogota, from a Green Party. And she said, and she knew that they had to work towards the sustainability and quality of life of the city. So she completely embraced our idea around green entrepreneurship and clean tech innovation and creating this circular economy. And that is actually bigger than ever now, also with the blessing in disguise from the COVID. You know, everybody is talking about the Green Deal. Everybody is talking about the green recovery. Everybody knows and is aware that we have to start thinking and doing things differently than we've done in the past. And also when this small fever is over, we have the real problems to deal with that is climate change and inequality in the world, which is only, unfortunately, especially the inequality growing because of COVID, you know, and our selfish behavior to only save our own country at the moment and don't look any further. So in that sense, timing is everything. And we were lucky enough that we were a front runner. So, but I think also for World Cleanup Day, the plastic soup, you know, there's a lot of like attention to the cause to clean up the world. And also in the Netherlands, you see it also with money that they are actually putting on the on cans now, on bottles, on, so there's a lot of pressure also on the producer. So there's a lot of like extended producer responsibility at the moment. So also the Coca-Colas, the Red Bulls, who is actually one of my clients, have to act. So timing is everything. Next slide. And finally, it's about your mission, about your slogan. You know, you really have to have like a single cause. You know, like what is your single cause, and keep it very, very simple. You know, we changed Climate Launchpad into a clean tech hub to drive green entrepreneurship and clean tech innovation. That's what we do. World Cleanup Day is cleaning up the world. That's what you do. So I think already sometimes it's too complicated with World Cleanup Day and let's do it world. You know, be very clear on your positioning, very clear on your branding, on your slogan and your purpose in with your organization, and also with your partnership proposition. You know, really in the beginning, we had like 3 levels of partnerships, you know, like all kinds of added values. But now we actually made it simple. One way that you can support as a company, it costs you 10,000 euros. We give you visibility of your brand. We give you access to innovations. We give you a leading position in the ecosystem. And together we actually drive green entrepreneurship and clean tech innovation. That's it. And if you want to join us, you are very welcome. If you don't want to join us, be our friend. You know, you can join in many ways, but you know, so keep it also for yourself. Keep it very simple and keep it your proposition clear. So next slide. Was it all easy? Of course not. You know, I've been a social and sustainable entrepreneur for over 20 years. And every year my bank account starts with a 0 or minus a couple of hundred of euros. So it keeps, and it needs a lot of passion, personality, drive, and grit to convince it. You also really need, like if you want to do fundraising, you have to be a fundraising type of guy. So also it has to be your personality. You know, I get a lot of energy of meeting new people, building partnerships, creating partnerships, and being successful also in that. So it fits my personality, it fits my passion to empower green entrepreneurship or sustainable entrepreneurship beyond borders. So it fits me, but it's not easy. You know, it's not about the number of times that you get hit down, but the numbers of times that you actually get up. And to give an example of that, I'm already in this field for 20 years. And actually now I start noticing that I get funding from UNDP, from GIZ, from Coca-Cola, from Alpina, from bigger corporates. So, of course, I did my bits and pieces, and I survived over the last couple of years, but now I can really see that all the planting, all the seeding, all the, we are now actually ready to start harvesting. So, but also I think that offers an opportunity with World Cleanup Day as well. We are here to stay. And especially also with the Sustainable Development Goals, we all now have this direction towards 2030. So also make sure that you build up this database, like last year in 2019, we also approached, for example, the British Embassy. Then we were too early stage. Now I got a call 2 weeks ago from the British Embassy saying like, Jop, we received your newsletter. We see that you are starting an accelerator program. Actually, that fits more our proposition because Climate Launchpad was too early stage. So you really have to start investing in building that long-term relationship and building up this database, this growing database of people that join your cause. Next slide. Then there's also a lot of guidance. I already mentioned it in the beginning. I just received this email yesterday, but also Acumen is actually offering a non-profit fundraising essentials. Here you see the link. I also put the link in the chat this morning. So take a look at it because it can help you and it can give you like a aha, or it gives you the confidence to continue with it. So check it out, please. And at the end, next slide, final slide. It's all also about luck. You need that luck. I needed that luck to have Fundación Bolívar da Vivienda saying at the table, Jop, we will support you. That if I would not have gotten that support, I would not have maybe continued or maybe found other partners. So you need a bit of luck, but you can also create your own luck. So it's really also by putting a lot of efforts and positive energy into the universe and be open for opportunities and be open for that luck. So that was a bit my presentation. I don't know if there are 1 or 2 questions from the audience before we continue with the next speaker, which will be Agha Dawoodzai. We can take 1 or 2 questions. Jean-Paul?
Yes, the link was a little bit too quick for me. I was not able to.
Yeah, it's in the chat.
It's in the chat.
We don't see it in the chat right now.
It's above, but I will
repost it again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Post it again. Yeah.
No. Anyone else?
Dam also had the comment. That the question that I'm thinking a lot, I'm asking it from a personal interest at the moment, how to make a choice from whom to take funding and from whom not. To make this.
Yeah, with your gut feeling and with your heart. Like for example, we with Climate Launchpad, we don't take any money from petrol companies. And actually we got like an offer last year in the beginning of the year while we were still very poor. We are actually still very poor, but then also we had one petrol company actually saying like, okay, we can support you for 1,500 euros or something. So, and then of course also the money was too low, but also it was a petrol company that was not seriously and genuinely interested. So in that sense, you have to be very ethical in that. Also, we will work with our advisory board. So also if we have any doubts, then we also discuss it with our advisory board. But for example, I also believe that you have to work together with the enemy. If you want to change the world, you have to change companies like Shell, and we are pushing and pulling and, Shell already for 20 years, but now they're finally also because they have to are making the shift, so also don't be too brutal with it because actually these corporates and companies need our support. And that's also what we see, for example, with with Climate Launchpad, we have this bottom-up innovation, and companies can't innovate anymore. So that's also why we work with Coca-Cola. And if we can provide a good solution for recyclable bottles for Coca-Cola, then of course we can make a lot of impact. And there are a lot of solutions out there. So we just have to speed up the innovation process. One more question, or shall we go to the next speaker?
May I have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a quick question. You know, you work with a lot of international company enterprises, I would say. And so I think that would you see any potential synergy if, you know, you introduce those entities overseas, you know, entity to work together. For example, like the French leader introduced Carrefour Taiwan to work with me before. I thought that's really helpful. I thought, I mean, some leader we have here were probably interested in that kind of opportunity, and we are looking for some synergy here. You know, maybe you introduce not just we got the got a fund or something, but it's more like we together work in the border range. Then you also can increase your fundraising on your side. I mean, that's just a thought, but what do you think about that? My question was just that, do you see that's possible, or it's...
No, and I think it's essential, you know, like that you have to learn from each other and also build like on an international level. You work with Decathlon. They are a very decentralized organization, but that it should be your first approach for Decathlon in Taiwan, because then you can say, okay, this is what your company is already doing. Would you also like to join us on a local level? And to give an example of that, in my own case with Climate Launchpad, Climate Launchpad received funding from Irish Aid for Africa to do a rollout in Africa of 6 different countries. So the first that I approached last year was the Irish Embassy, to saying like, okay, you are supporting already in Africa. Can't we build up like an organization or a partnership here in Colombia as well? With the result that now Irish Aid for this year, will support 6 African countries plus Colombia. So that really helps, you know. So really, I think there should be within World Cleanup Day a lot of knowledge sharing, saying, okay, these are very important partners in a global organization or in other countries. Please connect with them on a local level, because you immediately have that warm entry.
Yeah, thanks.
So let's go to the next speaker, Agha Dawoodzai, also to provide the perspective from Let's Do It World on a global level, to also see how people do not start from nothing and do not have to reinvent the wheel, but really can build on your experience on a global level.
Thank you. I'm just sharing my presentation from my computer. Can you see my presentation? Oh, great, thank you.
Yeah, we can see the slides. You can do this, the presentation.
Oh, yes, full slide, yes. Now you can see full slide.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jop. And my name is Agha Dawoodzai, and I'm the head of resource mobilization for Let's Do It, and also, like, you know, bringing expertise from my own work as a director of an organization who was doing work in similar area. In the same time, I work from the United Nations that I have been doing, supporting NGOs to be more sustainable and how they could come up with more diversified resources, and also, like, you know, sustainability idea. And at the same time, I've been assigned by the Swedish Committee for Afghanistan. This is a very big organization, almost managing around $40 million per annual funding, and to help them to develop or to make the resource mobilization is a core function of their organization, because to systemize, the first thing is that, that the resources they received, and at the same time that you diversify the resources, because most of the fund they were receiving from official development funds from developing cooperation, and that's more politicized. So I mean that, if something is done with the country and one country has stopped their resource in that country, so the organization will be remain vulnerable and they can cut off the operation. So therefore, we work to establish and make the resource mobilization a core function of the organization. Also, like, bringing all the key steps and also like processes together to make sure that that we have keep what we need to achieve, and also like it lead to sustainability of the organization. So this is what we have been I've been working in my experiences with other organizations. So in actually in 2020, last year this time, there was discussion on the resource mobilization, and I with the Let's Do It, and I offered my expertise that I can support the Let's Do It organization and resource mobilization, and also like being with the Let's Do It since 2015 or 2014, and I see that that the Let's Do It movement, together with the country team, that they are like moving from team approach to more organizational approach. So therefore, therefore we wanted to change a little bit the mentality about the fundraising toward more a comprehensive process where we can bring all the processes together and also support the organization. It will be like capacity building, and it will be like more institutional building, like the new organization, at the same time like grant management and fundraising guidelines, and at the same time donor reporting, because when we're getting money, that we are responsible for to provide back the accountability in reporting to the donors. So this is something that bring us to start with the resource mobilization. I don't know how I'm not able to change my slides. Why? Oh, sorry. Yeah, now I done it. Okay, we as I mentioned that we were in the past we were very much dependent on the fundraising, and when we moved from the individual or team approach to organization approach, there is what required to that we have a resource mobilization, a comprehensive process that to make sure the organization sustainability, and that's why that that we started the resource mobilization with aim to develop internal capacity, building relationship with the key donors in organization, and adopting a system that supports resource mobilization in order to achieve diversify resources from development assistance, and also like from private corporate funding, and as well as foundations, and also like individual donation to make the organization sustainable. So this was what we proposed for the resource mobilization to be established within the Let's Do It. When we agreed to start the resource mobilization, and then we start to look at that, that we should be coming more or less with a plan that that could support what we are aimed for the resource mobilization, and then we start work on the planning, and the planning, with the main purpose to develop a comprehensive approach, identify and set out the system, processes, and activities to identify financial and to mobilize financial and can resources to achieve the LDIW goals and objectives. You mean that that we are not only looking for money, but we are looking to build a system and processes that that support resource mobilization. So it means that it's coming from the internal organization capacity development towards that more donor relationship, and also like working with the different donors, and also like in the different other processes that to make sure that that we are managing the whole process of the cycle, not only fundraising. So this was the main purpose of our plan, that we work on the organization, and then with the key objective, that institutionalized resource mobilization is a key function of the organization, that we key function of the organization, that we are all the expertise will come. It means that, that when we do, capacity development, so it means that, this will be like, the source of expertise that we can share it and mobilize it in the country team level as well. Like, if we can provide more at the integrated approach that, that we together develop the capacity, because the country team are like, the integrated, part of the Let's Do It work. So that's something that, we are looking for. The second objective, we plan to be mobilize funding from diverse sources for LDY programs in operation to ensure the sustainability of the organization and reduce its dependency on single sources of funding. Currently, the LDIW, they are the Let's Do It, and they are I think that they're very much limited towards like the student development cooperation, and as well as like some private foundation. But I think we need to work to break this dependency and this limited resources, and then we can reach to more, like what Jop mentioned, that more foundation and corporate funding, that to ensure that we have a diversified funding for our programs. And then we also the other objective that we have for it, that to support and advise to ensure adequate capacity for resource mobilization across the organization, especially in the area of proposal development, grant management, and program implementation in reporting. We think that the resource mobilization we mean a comprehensive process. So it means that it's not only like fundraising or bringing funding to organization, but it's a more process that to support interlink each other. Because if we have like the resource mobilization, if you have money, get money from donors, so it means that we need to have sufficient capacity to spend that money according to what we have committed, and also like according to the international standards and guidelines, like that is like to increase or to ensure our credibility and transparency and accountability to relevant donors, and also like to our own objective and aim that we have. So this is something that that we also to make sure that this capacity exists, because receiving a funding from and then managing those funding, and then reporting back those to the concerned entities, or also internal organization management. So this is very important that we have all those processes and capacity to effectively manage those resources that we receive. The other important aspect of the resource mobilization that we outlined, that what were the basis of the resource mobilization for the organization. So the direction of the resource mobilization plan was based on the organization vision, mission, and core values, and also the strategic plan. LDIW partnership policy, which provide the guideline, principle, and general framework of the partnership of LDI and its member organization, like the country teams. And then we have the fundraising guidelines, which is very, very important, which you have mentioned, that we are doing a very sensitive work, and we do not just looking for money, but but we are getting money from people who are like which not affect our credibility. So this is something that that we need to make sure that that the money we get, or the policy we have, that to receive money from those that are a credible organization, because some of the companies may be like very much building credibility in our work. So that's why that we don't want to be in that situation, that to affect our credibility. Therefore, that the grant management guidelines, that is very, very important aspect of the resource mobilization that we base on that. And then there is other policy and applicable law and regulation that apply on fundraising issues, like that and also that resource mobilization, the country policy, how to mobilize resources from which donors, how donor policy apply on those things. So this is something that we thought that this is the key basis for this, that we need to make sure that we are developing this plan, so we make sure that those bases should be taken in account. And the next step was that that we need to actually develop a resource mobilization team, like for example, this is starting from the management, like we have established the funding steering group, which is consisting of senior manager for making necessary funding related decision and follow-up. So it means that that they are the group that they are really directing the resource mobilization work on agenda at the organization level. So it is consisting that the executive director, the head of resource mobilization and also the head of director in finance and administration, and at the same time the head of the network development. So they're the key people who run the funding agenda within the organization in taking necessary decision. And this is something that, you know, in all aspects of the resource mobilization, like for example, when we get you know, funding offer, we review the organization credibility, all the policies, guidelines, and after that we come up with a decision that should we go and get funding from this organization or not. And this is the group that do decide on this. And then we have just Jop mentioned the fundraising advisory group. This is a very, very important expert group that, you know, that we have to establish. Still, we are working on this to establish this group to provide you know, advice on the and expert advice on fundraising issues, and they should have expertise on all aspects of the, like, you know, corporate funding, how this work, and also, like, you know, fundraising, and also crowdfunding and all those. So they are the people who can provide more advice and technical support to this mobilization, enable us to taking in account all those tools and resources that exist, and also, like, you know, that provided by the expert group. And then we have established a resource mobilization team. They're responsible for driving and coordinating resource mobilization across the organization, ensuring implementation of FSG or funding steering group discussion, and also, like, you know, the fundraising group recommendation, like, you know, what we have, like, you know, the partnership policy, and also, like, you know, the advisory group. So these are the resource mobilization team will work to take recommendations or direction from those expert advice from those group, and also, like, you know, the decision of the funding steering group to implement it. And then we have the proposal development team, and this is consisting of our team members and representative of the program finance section and assigned by proposal development. So it means that, you know, we should have an integrated approach in terms of, like, you know, engaging all the key departments within the organization, like, you know, finance, and also that, you know, the program, and at the same time resource mobilization people to come up to work together to develop a proposal for a donor. So this is something that, you know, that currently we are working to establish a team or identify competent people who work with the country teams or who are at the headquarters. So it means that, you know, they will be working on different granting resources to develop proposal. And then we have the other process, like, you know, that the grant management, and this is something that, you know, when we get the resources and you know, like, you know, funding from a donor, the contract has been signed. So the job of the resource mobilization is, like, you know, team is now hand over to the grant management team, where grant management team is responsible to work with resource mobilization, and also the program implementation, and also finance, to ensure that, you know, they take all those measures, and also, like, you know, to start work and do the project according to the qualities of the organization, and also objective, and also, like, in the quality required quality. So this is something that, you know, that is a next process, and also, like, you know, this is consisting, like, you know, resource mobilization person, program team, and also finance and monitoring and evaluation team. So they come together and they can join the grant management team. So this is the resource mobilization process that we have, you know, established that in funding steering group, and then we have resource mobilization team, and then proposal development team, and then after that we have grant management and then reporting team. And then, you know, the funding advisory group is very, you know, more or less independent group that could provide advice in each process that, you know, we are taking, you know, during this resource mobilization process. So this is something that, you know, they will advise us. Yeah. We initially come up with the organization capacity assessment in terms of, like, institutional capacity, grant management, financial management, program implementation, communication, planning, reporting, and organization observing capacity. So that has been a simple exercise that we took in place last year, and we actually come up with that, you know, with this result that, you know, in some area that, you know, the legislative organization is stronger, have stronger capacity. And some area they have medium capacity, and some area they low capacity. So it means that, you know, we taken, like, you know, the area which is with low capacity, and also, like, you know, the medium capacity to build up, like, you know, for example, during this pandemic, because, you know, we started to work to develop, you know, an institutional capacity, because the list do it should have, a grant management guidelines. So we work with that one to develop those guidelines, and also, that the proposal development, we are thinking that, this year we will be working more on proposal development, capacity building within the team and on the country team. So these are showing that, that some of the area that, like, for example, credibility, like, among the donors, LDI network is a very credible network and has more credibility with all the partners and everything. And then, like, for example, diversity of funding, it is not that much because we have very limited funding sources, and that is something that need to be worked out more. And also, like, fundraising and grant management related guidelines, like, it is in the middle because, there are some sort of guidelines, but it was not very much comprehensive to take all the processes. So that is something that, we have been working on that to improve that one. At the same time, like, communication and marketing materials, this was also very important to take in account, like, when we are doing, fundraising, and also we need to promote our services as well in order to reach to more people and more followers and more audience.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just would like to, we're being like time conscious, and
okay.
like you to wrap up within a minute or so.
Okay, sure. And this is actually, the funding that, in 2020, because you see that, very limited donors, and we have to work more on this. And yes, and then, what we have done in 2020, that, we have developed LDIW funding guideline, fundraising guideline, and we done, grant management guideline, and also, like, we developed a resource mobilization plan, and also that donor mapping and database. So this is something that, we have done to pandemic process, and then we are now putting all these in action. We are looking for the next step, like, that to establish the funding targets in KPI that this year, and at the same time, like, start working that, on donor relations, call for proposal management that, that we receive a call for proposal. So how we should establish a process how to manage those, work on an integrated approach to link and engage country teams in resource mobilization. And also, like, RM capacity development at the HQ and country level. So this is something that, I think the upcoming for this year, we have to put this, and also, like, we will be very much, looking for the team feedback, like, when we are starting communication with the country teams, in order to get their feedback on resources that, and how we work together, and what are the key areas that, that we have been engaged, like, we are saying that in establishing DI funding targets and KPI, and also at the same time work on an integrated approach to link and engage country teams in resource mobilization. And this will be, like, our key task. At the same time, we were managing, like, our funding target. So that is, sorry if this is too long, but it was just, I will wrap up. So if there is any question, so feel free to ask. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Khan. Are there, and so what you also see that resource mobilization is not an easy job. So it takes a lot of, like, efforts and work behind the scenes to create this enabling environment, to get all documentation in place, to get the strategy in place, to get the team in place, to get instructions in place. So it takes a lot of efforts actually to do that. Are there one or two questions from the group? Anyone? Or shall we continue with the next speaker? And we will also have room for Q&A after the session. Adel, can I give the floor to you? Adel, Salah will also tell us a little bit more on grants and grants fundraising, as well as the portal 365. Adel, you will share your screen, or do you want Elina to do that?
It would be great if it's me, because I can move on, like, faster. Thank you so much for everyone, and it's great that we had the presentation of Khan, like, just like finished, because I feel like my presentation will be, maybe I will repeat a lot of things that he mentioned, but from maybe a different perspective. So it will add to what Khan just presented. Yes, so now I think I can share. Let's see. I still don't have the okay. I have the capacity to. Okay. So is everyone able to see it?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, great. So my session will be NGO funding pyramid and how to get as much donors funding as you can possibly handle. And just to give an idea, I have worked with many local NGOs in Yemen and many international NGOs. I worked for the World Bank, for WHO. I worked for Oxfam Great Britain as a program manager. And then I established one of the largest NGOs in Yemen. And I will present what we have learned during that. So we established Portal 365, which is a startup that is helping NGOs to understand the funding and how to go and how to improve in terms of funding. But in general, I will go to the theory. Like by the end of the session, I expect that everyone would understand more about the funding pyramid and the funding model and how to establish a funding plan and strategy. And usually I start like this by introducing the idea of the pyramid, which is like, have you ever built a pyramid, and why exactly the pyramid? Is because it has been like sustainable for more than 5,000 years. But also we had a lot of questions around the pyramid, is that although there have been a lot of natural disasters, a lot of man-made conflicts, a lot of wars, a lot of regimes changing, but no one could ever distract the pyramid, which means that the way it was built around sustainability. So just to reflect on what we are talking about today, is that I believe that each NGO is having two strategies. They are all related to the programs. So we have the program strategy that is mainly targeting the beneficiaries, the people who will be benefiting from the assistance or from the services, from the campaigns that we are going to do, and also the funding strategy that is targeting the money, the funding, the donors, and how we receive the money. So when we develop a strategy for the NGO, we need to consider both the funding and the program. And usually the program strategy is focusing on beneficiaries, the families, communities, service providers, service facilities, policies, technologies, systems, and authorities. But while the funding is targeting the funding, the money, negotiation with donors, proposals, NGO donor fit, which is we will go deeper on that, and how to find and identify the donors. I believe that like the NGO is usually, when we build the capacity of an NGO, it goes through 5 levels, starting from the opportunistic level to the reactive to proactive, scalable, sustainable. So we will never find a scalable NGO before it became proactive. We can never find an NGO that is proactive before being reactive, and so on. And usually those like those levels, usually the NGO is project based. Once the NGO is becoming proactive, it becomes programs based. And usually at this level, we need to hire a specialized teams, which means that if we are working on education, we need to have education experts. If we are working on health, we need health experts. If we are working on water, sanitation, hygiene, we need civil engineers and wash experts. If we are working on biodiversity cleaning campaigns, then we need experts. Yes, so we need the strategies at all levels, but for sure we will like if someone is asking when are we, or when do we need the funding strategy, I will say from day one. As long as we started the NGO, we started the initiative or the campaign, then we need to start from day one preparing for the funding strategy. So what about the funding strategy? Usually the funding, unfortunately, for NGOs, funding is the only sustainability model for NGOs. So funding usually is going through a cycle of implementation, evaluation, reporting, learning, program strategy, then again how to feed into improving the funding. Why we need the funding strategy? Because we need not to rely on just 1 or 2 sources of funding. I have been advising hundreds of NGOs in many places of the world, in many countries, during the last 10 years, and I noticed that those who are relying on 1 or 2, usually like something happen with the donor, sometimes happen with you, between you and the donor. Then at the end, you find like the NGO without funding. And usually there are 10 types of funding models. We have the grants, crowdfunding, donations, memberships of the alumni, special events, sales of products, provision of trainings and services, sponsorships, government, and sometimes the founder is the donor. But usually every NGO is usually successful on only like few models. There is no NGO who that is really able to have all the models like successful at the same time. So you need to prioritize what like your capacity, your team's capacity, if you are the founder or the manager of the NGO, including your core staff, what are you good at? If you are good at crowdfunding, then keep pushing for improving the crowdfunding, and then start later like working on the grants. But if you are great on the grants, then work on the grants more, invest a lot on the grants before you go to the crowdfunding. But at the same time, you need to consider at least 2 to 3 models, especially during the first 3 to 5 years of the NGO life. So we need to prioritize funding models. For us in Portal 365, we usually focus only on grants, so we don't talk about any other funding models. The funding strategy, I believe that each strategy should consider this like inverted pyramid. So it's like the funnel. Usually there is no difference between the marketing or the fundraising, because usually they are going around the same funnel. You need to search for your prospects. You need to search for those who would be like, who could be at any point of time your supporters, your customers, or your donors. So usually we need to search and identify the donor prospects, and then we need to engage and qualify. So we need to make sure that the donor is fit with our NGO. We need to find this fit before we apply. So we search, identify, engage, and qualify. Then we start writing proposals and apply. Why is this important? Because now when we have a call for proposal, for example, we see a lot of calls for proposals on everyday basis. But for now, the donors are facing a lot of difficulties to select the best NGOs to work with, because now like sometimes in a single call for proposal there are more than 20,000 NGO applicants from many countries. It became really difficult to select the partner, which means that it's not enough to apply from the first time. You need to search and identify, you need to engage and qualify, and then you apply, start if there is a good like response, you could go on negotiation, and then like signing agreements and receive funding. So when we see the funnel, sometimes you will talk about like 4,000 donors. You might only find 1,000 that are fit. You need to write 300 proposals. Sometimes you might have only 60 or less responding. And then if you would be lucky to close at least like 10 grants a year, like I'm talking on annual basis, you need to repeat this on every year, like as a kind of like a funding plan. In marketing, they say that prospecting is to find the man with the problem before you sell something. In fundraising, I believe that prospecting is to find the donor working for the same problem at the same target location. Usually for us as NGO leaders, we need to focus like on both sides. We need to acquire new donors through donor acquisition, and so it's like to do a lot of donor prospecting, and then we need to keep the current donors. We need to make sure that we serious enough to keep our current donors. So we need to do a donor retention, and this is through cultivation. Usually to do the donor retention and cultivation, it's like to keep the visibility of the donor. You need to have timely reporting. You need to ensure that you are reporting like financially and technically in a good shape. And when I say a good shape, it means that we are accountable, like spending wisely and so on. We could invite the donor for like monitoring visits. We need to provide success stories on like timely basis for every agreement. and then we need to document the lessons learned, and we share with the donor, and we keep the donor informed as much as possible. This is how we keep the donors like happy, and we keep like retaining the donor. And by the way, no NGO could grow if they are losing every donor they acquire. So so acquisition is good, but usually retention is the most important and difficult part of NGO management. In terms of acquisition, we just talked about it, which is you need to do the prospecting, the qualifying, the proposals, negotiation, and the agreements. So like funding is like this, like it's like you are driving with two hearts, with two heads, with two concerns. You should not like acquire new donors and keep losing the current donors. You will never be able to establish strong programs if you are doing so. So the donor prospecting, we need to identify the potential donors, and then we qualify them. But donor prospecting needs to be proactive. If we are only reactive, it means that we don't know anything about the donor. We just apply like at the last minute, and also we have no idea what we are really applying for. So we just know at the last time about the deadline. So we prepared a proposal and we submit, and then we keep saying, please, let's hope we get it. But it's not like that. Like once you go deep, you will understand that it's not being reactive. It's about being proactive, which means that we need to identify the donor, ask for the donor, make sure that this is donor fit. We make sure that this is the best fit idea. Is the donor working on the same beneficiaries we are working on? Then we start to prepare and plan ahead around applying for the proposals. We need to do a lot of engagement. Yes?
Adel, I need to interrupt you, and really sorry for that, because it's so exciting presentation. However, I would ask you to wrap it up within 3 minutes.
Yes, I will be faster. So how can we identify the prospecting donors? So for example, we have many sectors like that. This is how many donors we have, but generally they are repeating in each sector. For example, I searched for 4,000 donors. You could have a lot of like platforms where you can find the database of the donors. You need to qualify these donors. We should not spam them by the proposals and by emails. So we need to engage and qualify. We make sure that we are fit in capacity, geography, and strategy. Also, we need to make sure that is it local or international donors. Usually the donors, they are doing also assessment for us. They keep seeing the risk, not the productivity. So if we are opportunistic, we are high risk, low productive. So they keep saying no. And this is how they are rating, and they never work with you if you are ineligible, like the capacity is less than they are requesting. So for example, they keep seeing that no, if you are just individual focus, if it's team, then you become potential, available, trusted partner, and preferred partner. Capacity challenges versus funding. Usually you could be like founder focused. You need to make sure that you like the founder need to work him or herself to apply for funding, to make sure that they are able to do it. Then it become applicable. If you could succeed in 1 or 2 proposals, then you need to hire a team so that they help you to make sure that you have a predictable funding, and then you keep working, hiring specialized teams to have a repeatable funding and recurrent donors. Then you need to start automation and tools to make sure that you are scalable and diversifying to become sustainable. And I give this case study like from my own experience, that when I am the founder of nfdhr.org. I established it on 2012. And then I was the only one who's doing funding. It was like 0-0. Then I succeeded, so I hired a team. It became predictable. At 2014, we had 3 donors with about $500,000 USD. Then we became proactive. We like on 2016, we had specialized teams, 6 programs on water, sanitation, hygiene, health, nutrition, food security, education, peace building, and governance. and then we were succeeding like doing repeatable funding from the same donors. We had like 7 donors, but they were like recurrent donors. So our annual funding became $5 million. Then we became scalable. Like we started to use automation and tools. At 2019, we closed, like we worked with more than 22 donors with 14 million US dollars. And now this is our current challenge: how to become sustainable, how to diversify our funding model. We are working on that. I hope this is helpful. I wish you could also visit us at portal365.org. Maybe if I could just very quickly share what is Portal and how you could benefit out of it. Let's see if I can share, or I am almost done. Let me see. Yes, so this is how we go to the system. This is the system, Portal 365. Usually we manage NFDHR with this system. Now we have many NGOs around the world using the system. So this is the pyramid. For example, we have 159 donors. These are fit with like those who have grants, those donors who are working in our field. So these are the only donor fit with us. So we try to apply, and now we are working with 8 current donors. So we have this, like the database of the donors. You could search based on your country, based on, for example, in Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, and so on. You could also search based on the programs. If you are working, like, let's say, on nutrition, water, sanitation, hygiene, shelter, and so on. And also you can find the grants. You could start developing proposal through the system. You could bring your team, for example, and who are working with you on the proposal. And then you could also manage the projects. If the proposal is implemented, like funded, then you could convert like the project to like you could start do the activities. You could do the indicators tracking, spending plan. So it's like also it helps you to not only acquire new proposal and new funding, but also it helps you to manage and report. Thank you so much. I think
Adel, thank you so much. Yeah, this is really great that you're like all the way from Yemen, that this is so reachable, and this will be recorded so that you can also, like all the others, can also scroll through the slides and really zoom in there as well. Jop, I give the floor to you.
Thank you so much, Adel. Very impressive. And very
so I would stop sharing.
And then I think we go immediately to Lynn. And if we have time, we will still do some final questions at the end of the session. Leo, do you want to present your presentation yourself, or would you like Alina to present it?
No, I can just have Alina to help. That's totally fine. So yeah, so thank you for the for the time and your participation. I cannot guarantee you can really get a fund with my method, but I can guarantee you I can finish in 10 minutes, and everyone still have a time to do a Q&A. So I'm country leader from Taiwan, but I think that I also help some fundraising job in the Asia office. So I just have some experience I can share with you. And so leveraging what we learned so far, I think that's already technical, and people here are really patient. So that's why they share so much, even though it's over time, but that's really exciting. So on my side, I would like to wrap up a little bit more, meaning that I would just summarize something for you to implement, with some philosophy in your mind. So next slide. So the way I'm doing it, just share simple true story. That actually in the future we probably have some review brand audit for our partner for some fundings, that sort of thing. So we also, Taiwan actually earned the brand audit prize last year in Working Up Day. I mean, the Let's Do It networking. network. So how do we do that but still earn the sufficient fund to run our working update? That's something I want to share here. So we really pay attention to our client, our partner review. So two simple story. One is the really, significant success we have. Another is the failure. And you see that the success that I have a son, that definitely that's time to shine, right? But interesting that for failure, I didn't put some negative sign, but I just put the moon. Why? Because I think that's a time to ponder. That's a time for you to think. Because failure is nothing you should really wave. You should actually experience it and even enjoy it because you can learn from that failure to move on, proceed furthermore. So that's why I have a two story with you. I would like you to learn something from this case. So very first thing is about the successful story and what's the background and what's the story. The successful story, to make it simple, it's just, it's a really successful one because that's relevant to both the volunteer mobilization and also funds. We need the people and we also need the money, but we got the both and for long term. So I think that's a really successful story for me. And we got that just, 3 years ago. And since then we continue this cooperation. And and a detail of this story is just, our partner is a leading financial holding company and they have a regular volunteer job. They have to do that every year. So we just try to figure out something we have, and just like the previous speaker shared, that we just figure out what's their pain point, what's their benefit there, like the con share. We figure out that and we think together and we have what we have. So they have a regular volunteer schedule. We worked with them saying that why don't you just work with the working update? I can provide something you need. They want to be well known among Asia. They want to promote some business regularly or to promote their brand among Asia in some way. So we actually turn out to be a really good channel for them and a really soft way, but we can successfully reach a sufficient amount of people for them. So we work with them in that way. And that they just donate. Since then they donate, that's the first year, then they donate 3,500 and in the future they donate more. And with the exposure they expecting more, they just add up much more. And that they really care about whether they can have people to work with them to get, they really care about whether their employees actually do the volunteer on their own. So we don't really charge them on the service that we actually help them to, set up, organize the logistic of the cleanup. We didn't do that. All we do was just simply that, I share with you the channel to expose yourself. And we thought that you have to do the logistic on your own because you want your people to do the volunteer on their own, to learn the volunteers. That's a really good partner. So we work with them and end up with that. We just need to make sure that we have the marketing team to promote them. And we just have a really high donation from them. And that's our story for the first one, a successful one. But the failure is also important. That's an electronic company that we face. Also, it's an Asian wide. It's actually a global electronic company, and that one will be well known among Asia, even the world. Have something about that. And for this one, sorry, I cannot share the name for some reason, but they are really famous in some way, and we work with them. And but this is a really big example because at the very beginning they donate around 2,000 US$, and we thought that's a really great amount because that's our very start. That's at the very beginning of our organization. So we think that's a really good start. So we work with them, but the problem came, they love us. They have a passion about the environment and the one who hosts the CSR, the corporate social responsibility team. He really loved this, and he even do his his job. About the environmental job. So he really have a passion, and he promised us a lot that what kind of cooperation we can have in the future. And that's at the very beginning. We believe them because they have some sort of huge amount of donation for us. But I mean, the bad news is that if they did pay, but the problem is that in the future, all the cooperation they promised end up with that they didn't really realize it. They just let it be. They just let it go because they cannot really. Something happened on their side and their CEO didn't approve it, so they cannot really run those things. But our team already spent a couple months, especially to design a program for them. It's a whole year program. It ended up with more than 100,000 cost for that one. So that's what we expected. Then that's a really horrible story. And now with that, we have no resource to move on, and our team will just really lost their morale. And may I have a next slide? Yeah. So based on these two stories, that I would just have a really simple top 5 takeaways and action plans. It's just really simple, but you can remember in your mind. First of all, is that figure out your overlapping job. I mean, between you and your partner. For example, my partner, the very successful one, they have a plan. They have a regular volunteer job they want to do. But another electronic company, they don't have that. They just want to do something. They have some startup they want to try, but they don't have a regular one. So we didn't really figure out overlapping. That's why the tragedy happened. And second, understand your partner. The very first one, that's the chairman of that leading financial institution. It's my friend, and the CEO is also my friend. This, if you notice too, you can run everything, especially in financial institution. That's a really hierarchical place. That means, everyone listen to both. So you just need to figure out what are both, and that's the culture. So it end up with that. I succeed in that way because I understand my partner, that's my friend, and I know how they run the banking because I'm a management consultant, service only banking. So that's why I really know how to run with this one. But think about the other one. Electronic, definitely not my field, right? I'm not in my element. And second, their organization is not like the finance. They don't really listen to their boss. So end up with that chairman didn't support it. And when they asked about the employees, his teammates, no one really support him as well. It's just like he has no one to support. So that's why you end up with the failure. And the third one is talk to the right person. That's a little bit similar to the second one, but it would be more specific, like figure out what's the, rainmakers. Rainmaker may be someone with a high title if you talk to someone in a financial institution, but rainmaker may be someone in the electronic company or like Google. You have to figure out someone didn't hold that position, but he is the person know a lot of department. He or she actually work with the different people, different organization, or with the different stakeholder in that company. So you have to learn the culture. And second, you have to talk to the right person, who is the rainmakers. And the fourth, touch and inspire them through your action. Think about this. You are doing something that may not be in their current CSR, their current business plan. That's impossible. You are doing something environmental. That won't be that kind of thing. But sometimes even worse, that what you are doing may not even in their CSR, corporate social responsibility plan. So only way you can do it, can really motivate them, is to touch them, inspire them through your action. So, always show them what you've done and show them what you've achieved. Because for them, they really appreciate someone already did something. That's what I learned from the corporate. And very last one is to, be aware of your morale. Think about this. Your team is always your best partner. Don't forget this, okay? You have no team, you have no your friend in team, you have nothing. So always remember that. That's a 5 takeaway I want to share with you. And I think that's within 10 minutes. And if you have any more questions, just let me know. I have an email, which I share in the chat now. So feel free to send me email. I can just share with you more about how I achieve it, but just 2 simple story. You can tell that's a really good comparison, but just that you can have some takeaway. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leo, and great time management. And I think also that brings us to the end also of the session, because it's exactly 11:30. We will have the same session again this afternoon at 6 o'clock Tallinn time. But that will be more, it will actually be the same session, but then also for our different time zones. So more focusing also on Latin America, so that they can easily wake up, have their cup of coffee and the preparations for our workshop. So let me end with, yeah, we can see if we can share the slides I see on the screen. So I think we are capable of doing that. You can ask it now also via the chat, and then we will make sure you will get them. So I would like to thank our speakers. Very, very, very interesting. I think also it was like a good combination of speakers on inspiration on how to set up the organization, on how to actually manage grant funding and approach that. I think also Adel would be very interesting to explore your portal for everyone, maybe also on a global level with Let's Do It World, and then maybe also distribute that to a more national level. And also the tips and tricks from Leo on the field on corporate partnerships, very, very handy, very to the point. So thank you all very much. And we can continue discussions in the conference lobby. Address to the chat. So there is also now a conference lobby where we can have like a cup of coffee together virtually. So hope to see you there. Thank you so much. Have a lovely ongoing day with the conference, and keep on cleaning the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.